Okay. Hi everyone. You can come and sit in front. Actually, these tables are also for your group discussion and after the session. Yeah. So, hello, doctor. Come and sit. You can sit at the table. No problem. And if anybody wants to move further forward, we'll be starting in just a bit. And this table as well. Please don't be shy. I know the camera is a bit awkward, so it kind of creates a bit of a artificial barrier. Come on, you can sit here. Don't worry if you need to move in and out. That's fine as well. Because and those at the back, you want to come forward a little bit? Don't be shy. No worries. Actually, even going to say the plenary hall, we should push everyone in front as well because there are tables there. It's a bit awkward, isn't it? Okay, so Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the breakout session on Beyond Growth and GDP from Profits to Wellbeing. Are the people online there? Are we? Yeah. And for those of you online, hello. Thanks for being with us. So today we've got a very interesting panel lined up where we'll be talking about this issue. So with us, we've got four speakers, four speakers and facilitators for the session. So how we're going to do this, it's going to be a bit of a sharing session to set the scene. And then we're going to have breakout sessions where we're going to do some activities. So hopefully it'll be very interactive. And we've got our facilitators here as well. Now, just to start and to warm everybody up, you've got, is this? There you go. No, no worries. We're just going to do a very big warm-up activity because I'm wondering in the last 3 days that you've been here, how well have you gotten to know your fellow participants? Okay, so not much interaction. I noticed that you go in, you sit down, you get pretty good knowledge, but you don't do much. So our lovely volunteers here will be passing out a piece of paper. Yeah, feel free. You can start passing them out. Everybody can take one piece. Please feel free to have a pen if you do. If you don't, we've got some pens in front. If you want to just do it on your iPad or just write it down, you can find a creative way of doing it. Come on, Professor Abi, please join the activity. It's a very quick one because I'm mindful of time. I have to. You strike admiration and such, hence your presence in the game. Okay, so before you start, what you will see is a grid of 9 statements. So the aim of this session, please make sure everybody has a piece. Come on in, don't worry, we're just about to start. Don't be shy and don't be afraid. Come on in. Anas, is there a slide with the jigsaw puzzle? Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, this is it. Oh, it's not here. Okay, no problem. Okay, so what we're going to do next is there's a grid of, I believe, 12 statements. What I would like to ask you to do is to go around the room and find one name and one name only of a person that fits the particular grid, right? So for example, the first one is studied in Malaysia. So you'll have to look for someone who has studied in Malaysia and put their name in, right? Because there are clearly some who have and some who haven't. So we're only going to give you a little bit of time, only 3 minutes. So everyone has to get up and pretty much rush around the room. So please, if you may start now. It's also up here in case you don't get it. And if you don't have a pen, there are some pens here. One name per box only, then look for somebody else. And you cannot repeat the names, okay? You can also ask the facilitators, except for Lavanya because she's still doing her slides. Y'all want to play? You all can join as well. Okay.
Very common. Any other than you sound like a speaker like
I studied in Malaysia.
Sorry, I just came in.
No, we literally just started. So please free to go around and jump in. So basically, you just have to find somebody here where you can put their name in any of the statements. So for example, studied in Malaysia, you can put my name, Daniel. Yeah. And you are?
Irene.
Irene, nice to meet you. Irene.
You're the speaker?
I'm the moderator. Yeah, where are you from, Irene? Hong Kong, Malaysia. Yeah. So please feel free to go around. Yes. Yes, Daniel. Yeah.
You speak at least 3 languages?
Two. I don't think it counts though.
I do. Stretch.
Yeah.
I can't exchange. I have to
Unless
go
you combine a little bit of Arabic, a
You-
little bit of
you-
Mandarin.
do you donate to charity?
Yes.
That's good. Oh, you're not doing this, so.
No. So okay. Let's keep it. 4, 5. Give them a bit. Huh?
It says a small infinity.
And then I'll explain the Gary, you're still at the front of the room. You didn't go all the way there, you know? You get stuck here. Brother, dekat sini je. Aduh, ramai lagi boleh kenal.
Dekat dah kenal dah.
Dah kenal dah. Dah kenal lagi lah.
Sekarang penuh tu.
Oh, penuh tapi kena orang lain-lain. Dia kena orang lain-lain. Ah,
Boleh nama sama kan?
tak boleh, tak boleh.
One, kan?
Ah, dia tak boleh. Ya.
I mean that person may have a pet,
That's right.
may like to sing,
But that's like
study in Malaysia,
Betul.
choose only one.
So choose only one. Yes. No repeating names. Only one name per box, okay? No repeating names, please. You're keeping the people online company, right? Just explain to them what's going on. And they want to try to participate. Yeah. Just in case you can prompt them there as well. Two more minutes for this exercise. Okay, 1 more minute left. 1 more minute left, so you'll have to speed it up. Okay, 30 seconds left. For those of you who have completed the jigsaw puzzle, please have your seats. If you have completed your jigsaw puzzle, please take your seat. Okay, everybody, time is up. can I please ask everybody to return to your seats, please? And you can come and sit in front as well. All right, everybody, please return to your seats so we can start the second part of the session. It's great, you're not gonna. Hello, you found everyone?
Is it possible now to sort of make the room a little less cold?
We can try. Is it possible to make the room warmer? To make the room warmer? Like, turn the temperature down? Open the windows. Okay, that might help.
Yeah,
a little bit.
maybe it's like freezing.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's centralized, right? Yeah. I know. It's a bit of a juxtaposition between being at a Planetary Health conference and full aircon. Yeah. Okay, everybody, thank you. If you can please return to your seats so kindly so we can continue with the session. No, I've lost some of you. I know you're enjoying this. I'm very happy you are, but we don't have all day either. Thank you. All right. I would do a countdown, but that's a bit like classroom, isn't it? Okay, thank you, everyone. You fail. Okay, so if everybody can have a seat. Now, how did you find that session? Interesting? Yes. I think one of the reasons I wanted to do this was also because, oops, let me just get my timer in order. Sorry, I'm just mindful of time. Was because I noticed one thing. When we all arrived, there was very little opportunity for you to interact with your fellow participants. I think that's just the first. And from your interactions, you were learning new things about one another. The second thing that I did, or if you may have noticed, is that some of the questions are somewhat related to the topic today. Of course, some of the questions are a bit to kind of just throw you off track. For example, how many of you here found someone who studied in Malaysia? Can you just see a show of hands? So you've all found somebody who studied in Malaysia. Okay, hands down. How many of you here found an entrepreneur? Interesting. Who did you find, ma'am? Can I just ask? Mr. Manish. Who's Mr. Manish? Oh, there you go. Mr. Manish, entrepreneur. What do you do?
I tell stories about the future.
Ooh, that's interesting. Well, if we had more time, we'll come back to that. Now, how many of you found somebody who works in Planetary Health? It's quite a number. Okay. And who did you find, ma'am, in the... All three of them. These your friends are in Planetary Health. And you're from the Alliance, are you? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. How many of you have found someone who likes to sing? Who did you find who likes to sing? Prof. Ibrahim, what do you like to sing? Could you do us a very quick... Sorry?
But I can't sing.
Oh. Okay, we'll save you to that. How many of you here found someone who works in finance? Okay, quite a number. Prof, Doctor, who do you find? David. David here is a very well-known financier in Islamic finance in particular. Has written many books. How many of you found someone who practices yoga? What's that number? Annabelle practices yoga. Okay, Annabelle is at Planetary Health Center. Wonderful. How many of you here found someone whose first time it is currently in Malaysia? Who did you find, right? Sorry? Leonard. Who's that? Oh, that's you. So it's your first time here. Welcome. Welcome to Malaysia. All right. How many of you here found somebody, this might be a bit trickier, who has more than 100 staff under them? Okay. And who did you find, sir? Professor Abi. Oh, of course you do. Abi is the provost of Sunway University. That's why. How about you? Who else found anyone who's not Professor Abi? Oh, everybody found Abi. Oh, yes. Jerry, who did you find? Raquel. Which one? Who's Raquel, please? Raquel. So just like Abi, the professors have. Thank you so much. Where are you from, Raquel? Brazil. Thank you. And okay, this is interesting. Who here found somebody who has no social media account? Many couldn't find. Who did you find, sir? Jelena? Who's Jelena? You have... Okay. Anyone else who found somebody who wasn't Jelena? Everybody found Yelena? Anyone else who doesn't have social media account? Kate? Kate, who's Kate? Kate, you also do not. Oh, you have a LinkedIn? Okay, yeah, that kind of counts. You have WhatsApp though? WhatsApp. You do have WhatsApp. So WhatsApp's interest. Not really, right? No? Okay, well, they've got communities and all now. Who here found someone who donates to charity? Okay, I won't ask. Who here found someone who speaks at least 3 languages? Who did you? Okay, 4 languages? 5 languages? Okay, who did you find who's got 4? You, oh, well, you found yourself. Okay. And last one, who owns a pet? Found someone else. Everyone. So I've got 2 cats. So but one of the things you've also noticed is some of these questions also relate to those in business, finance, because I think this session is also where we are here for a Planetary Health Summit, but we're also here in this particular session to learn about how do we go beyond, or what does it mean to go beyond GDP and into well-being. So for this, I'd like to invite my speakers onto the front, and if you could join me in a round of applause. Zara, Lavanya, and Shantini, would you like to sit in front with us? No? You'll be facilitating later? Okay, sure thing. So, oh, yeah. Sorry? No, later. So, yeah, some videos first, but you can sit here, or do you want to? Oh, yeah, you can sit there, that's fine. We've also got with us, if you can switch back to the slide, earlier one. Oh, sorry, they're just gonna, because we've got 2 speakers with us, Simon Ticehurts from the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, as well as Dr. David Webb from the University of Western Australia, who's a regenerative expert. So they aren't able to be with us today, and we've pre-recorded them. So I think what we can do is we will start by listening to them, where Simon will start with the lead-in speech and presentation. So let's join me in a round of applause for Simon.
Thanks so much, Daniel, and thanks to the Sunway Centre and the Planetary Health Alliance for hosting this annual meeting, and for the opportunity for us at the Wellbeing Economy Alliance to participate, even if remotely. And I do apologise for not being able to be there with you, but still we want to contribute to this important conversation, particularly looking at this idea of moving beyond growth and the idea of how a wellbeing economy can help planetary health. So I'm going to talk through a few slides and explain a little bit about the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, which seeks to transform an economic system which exploits people and the planet in the pursuit of growth and profit, to one in which the economy is at the service of people and the planet, and so in which the economy is a means to an end, and that end would be well-being. And we see an economic paradigm on the left that pursues profit and growth, in which our economies incentivize the decline of planetary health. Correspondingly, a well-being economy would have a positive impact on planetary health. And I will try and explain that, this idea, during this presentation. Firstly, I would like to explain how we got to this current multidimensional crisis and the decline in planetary health. And you'll be very familiar with this, these graphs of what's called the Great Acceleration and the exponential economic growth measured by real growth in GDP, as well as a number of factors and indicators related to the economy. And this is over the past 50 years. And it's important to note the accelerated impact of our economic activities on Earth systems trends and planetary health in terms of water use and scarcity, pollution of the air, rivers and sea, loss of biodiversity, soil erosion, acidification of oceans, but also consequently on the impacts on human health in terms of nutrition, infectious diseases, and mental health, as has been well documented by the Planetary Health Alliance. So our economic growth is directly related to the decline in planetary health. And if we look at, again, a very familiar graph, we can see that we're overshooting planetary boundaries and the carrying capacity of our planet Earth. We have an economy which extracts from and erodes and wastes our environment, exceeding the rate of regeneration of renewable resources, as well as the absorptive capacity of the environment for waste. We are overshooting what is termed the safe operating space, which could be the limit for our planetary health. And the IPCC reports since 1990 document the severity of the human-induced climate crisis, even with the filter of governments that seek to minimize or negate this reality. And global warming, with the loss of ice caps and glaciers and sea level rise and warming of the oceans, emissions, greenhouse gas and CO2 emissions, extreme weather and weather-induced events, drought, floods, heat waves, hurricanes, desertification, forest fires, the acidification of the oceans. These are all well documented now. And yet climate change, important as it is only one symptom of this overshoot. We are running a much bigger ecological deficit, using the equivalent of 1.7 planets. And now we can see how this plays out in a simple system diagram, with the purpose of the economy of profit and growth at the center, measured by GDP. And we can see how this leads to extractivism, and which also leads to environmental destruction, and how the economic design is leading to the maximization of throughput and output, which is leading to the excess use of resources, and planned obsolescence, leading to waste and pollution. And all of this has a negative impact on planetary health. But note that even with this extractive environmental logic, we are not resolving the minimum basic social flaw of poverty and hunger and basic rights. And this combination of the extraction from nature on the one hand and the exploitation of people on the other hand is very profitable. But it's leading to a negative spiral of decline for people and the planet, affecting governance and eroding social and environmental standards. It's a kind of self-reinforcing race to the bottom. So how would a well-being economy turn this around? And I think there's no one single solution or recipe, rather an economic system of alternatives, but with a very, very different purpose, away from profit and growth to the contribution to social and ecological well-being. And this purpose would have a very different set of principles that we call we all needs, with nature, importantly at the center, would have to be much more central, and our civilization much more ecocentric, measured by the capacity of the economy to cherish, restore, and protect our natural environment and the species we cohabit the planet with. Dignity, and in which the economy ensures that everyone has everyone can lead a life of dignity in comfort, safety, and happiness. Fairness in terms of justice in all its dimensions at the heart of the economic systems, much more equal societies. Participation, citizens are actively engaged in locally rooted communities and mold a new economy. And importantly, connection, a sense of belonging, and institutions that serve the common good rather than private gain. And there are some testing questions to probe these principles, these needs. And when we look at our national or local governments or our businesses or our educational systems, we can inquire as to whether they're working towards these needs. So these are some of the questions that test out these needs. Does the economy provide everyone with what is needed to live a life of dignity and purpose? Does it restore, protect, and cherish the natural environment? And is the economy guided by the principles of interconnection between human, animal, plant, and environmental health? And does the economy value activities and behaviors by their contribution to social and ecological well-being, as many businesses are now trying to do? Is the economy designed to ensure a just distribution of income, wealth, power, and time? And is the economy locally rooted and determined by people's active voices? If the answers to these questions are positive, this would indicate also a positive impact on planetary health. And these could be questions we ask ourselves and others along the journey of the Planetary Health Roadmap. And it is about a journey, taking the first steps, demonstrating the intention to seek a new purpose, as several governments are already trying to do through collaboration, trying out new policy ideas, new well-being frameworks and budgets, and moving beyond our obsession with GDP. New Zealand, for example, introduced in 2019 the country's first well-being budget, with the commitment of putting well-being and the environment at the heart of policies, focusing on outcomes that meet the needs of present generations at the same time as thinking about long-term impacts for future generations, breaking down the silos across government and working across government to assess, develop, and implement policies in a much more collaborative way that improve well-being, and tracking progress with broader measures of success, including the health of people, communities, the environment, and public finances. And Iceland has introduced a well-being framework with 39 indicators for prosperity and quality of life, focusing on a range of economic, social, and environmental indicators. And GDP is only one of these 39 indicators. At the same time, Wales has implemented a Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, looking at 7 wellbeing goals and how policies impact on future generations. So if we look again at a simple system image for the purpose of a wellbeing economy, with well-being being the primary purpose, this would challenge the idea of infinite growth and accumulation of material goods driven by a consumer economy that seeks profit. And it looks instead at what to produce and how much. We can see a new design in the economy in the way that stops harm happening in the first place. It is not extractive, but preventive, regenerative, and circular, putting back more than is taken out. There is less use of resources and less waste by design. And it's important to note that 80% of the environmental impact of any product comes from the design phase. And it changes the goals of business away from strictly profit to generate social and planetary well-being, and uses public policy and public procurement to incentivize this journey with an enabling regulatory environment and a progressive tax system. It would transform finance, scaling down harmful investments in fossil fuels and scaling up new purpose-oriented social and environmental objectives with public banks, cooperatives, green investment, or social wealth funds. And it would also be a more caring society, revaluing care of people and the planet and addressing issues of poverty and inequality with the provision of universal basic services. All of these factors would lead to a positive impact on planetary health and a self-reinforcing dynamic of well-being. So I hope through this short presentation, we can clearly see the links between a well-being economy, planetary health, and human health. And whilst sharing that slide with some of the resources so you can connect further to the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, I'd like to just quote quickly from the introduction to the Planetary Health Roadmap and Action Plan that's being discussed during the annual meeting. And the quote reads like this. I think it's important because it captures in conclusion this connection between economic systems, planetary health, and human health. It reads in the following way: the link between the decline in planetary health and the drivers of this emerging devastation have their roots in our economic systems, which seeks and relies on profit, growth, extraction, and exploitation. The climate crisis, biodiversity loss, and environmental degradation are linked to our economic systems, as well as how economic productivity and growth is valued above responsible management of planetary resources by the current governance, education, and communication systems. We argue that our current economic system is now uneconomic, directly undermining planetary health now and for the future. The health of the planet and its inhabitants can only be improved through a seismic shift in how we govern and manage our economies. And at the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, we believe that this seismic shift would be the transition to a well-being economy. So I hope I'll conclude with that, and hope that that is a useful framing presentation for the rest of this workshop. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you. So when I had the privilege of recording Simon for this, I happened to wear the same batik. Totally unintended. So thank you so much, Simon. He's in Mexico right now. And next we have Dr. David Webb. Dr. Webb is from the University of Western Australia. He's an expert in regenerative businesses, and he's committed to exploring the relationship between business, the environment, and personal well-being. Much of Dave's current work sits in the areas of regenerative business and planetary health. Seeing the necessity, a key goal over the coming 2 years is to widely shift the narrative and conversation from sustainability to regenerativity. That's a bit of a... Dave teaches postgraduate courses in ethics and sustainable management, principles for responsible management, and marketing and society. He has published extensively on ethical, pro-social, and pro-environmental topics. So Dave is actually with us online, but we've recorded his presentation just in case of connection issues. So join me in a round of applause for Dave Webb.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Planetary Health meeting here in Kuala Lumpur. And I'm very pleased to be able to join you virtually to present on regenerative business, perspectives, challenges, and opportunities. I'm Associate Professor Dave Webb from the University of Western Australia Business School. So one of the first things that I want to start talking about is what is sustainability in business? And for the most part, the conversation has oriented itself around what it means for organizations to reduce, to minimize their impacts, their adverse impacts on the environment, as well as on society in general. And we can see that articulated in many sustainability reports. For example, I picked up one of many available. This one is from Coles 2023. They're a supermarket chain in Australia. And this is by no means a judgment on what it is that they're doing. In fact, they do a fantastic amount of work in the sustainability space. But just to highlight the actual language that they use, talks about the minimization of food waste, the minimization of negative impacts on biodiversity, reducing plastic packaging, reducing waste to landfill, reducing emissions, and so on and so forth. And these against the Sustainable Development Goals. And what Coles are doing in this area is no different, in fact, to what I find many organizations are doing. And that becomes the basis of their conversation. So the question is it enough simply to be talking about reduction and minimization? Well, let's take a look at some of the most recent research. A paper published in Science Advances by Richardson and colleagues reveals that in terms of the planetary boundaries, we've already exceeded 6 of the 9 boundaries. In fact, I'm also led to believe that we've exceeded the 7th in ocean acidification recently. These planetary boundaries denote a safer and just operating space for humanity to sustain life on Earth. Similarly, also 2023, Johan Rockström and colleagues highlight that a later model of the Earth system boundaries, 7 of these 8 boundaries have actually been surpassed. And then even more recently, a couple of colleagues of mine from the University of Western Australia in a paper published in Nature Climate Change revealed that we've already exceeded the critical 1.5 degree mark. And it's that 1.5 degree mark that everybody's been talking about. We must make sure we don't exceed that level. Well, unfortunately, according to this research, we already have, and they highlight that we hit the 1.7 plus minus 0.1 degree mark in 2020. And if we continue on the current trajectory, we may reach the 2 degree, that's the catastrophic level, late in the late 2020s, nearly 2 decades earlier than we expected. So what's the result of that? Well, many of us around the world have seen the implications from flooding to fires to other types of disaster. And if we continue on this trajectory, then we can expect to see much more of that. So with that as a basis and that notion that conversation seems to be oriented in terms of sustainability around minimizing negative impacts, I had a conversation with colleagues here at the university recently, and I said something along the lines of, no longer is it sufficient to talk about sustainability in minimizing negative impact terms. Simply put, we can't afford any negative impacts. Minimization isn't enough. It leads to the same outcome, potential environmental human catastrophe. And the only thing that changes with a slowing down effect of minimization strategies is the time frame of the negative outcome, the catastrophe. What we urgently need to be talking about is what it means to be a regenerative business that emphasizes maximizing positive impacts of its activities, systems, processes, of people, places, and the planet. So this brings us to regenerative business. Consistent with planetary health, the starting point in regenerative thinking in organizations is the realization that humans are embedded in and fundamentally dependent on nature. This diagram here shows the planetary boundaries are on the periphery and human health and well-being in the middle, mediated on the center by business, by the economy, and other human-made open systems. So different perspectives of regenerative business. It's widely discussed within the literature, or at least has been of late, in terms of what it means to be a regenerative leader, the net positive impacts, where the analogy is the handprint is bigger than the footprint. It's been talked about in regenerative finance terms, regenerative economy terms by John Fullerton from the Capital Institute. It's also been discussed in terms of from a design perspective, where we look at biomimicry, circular economy, closed loop approaches, etc. Also in terms of the self-renewable capacity of natural systems, and then also by Carol Sanford recently looking at what it means to build the capacity in people and other living systems to be self-determining in the world. So a number of different ways in which we can talk about what it means to be regenerative. What about industry? What's industry doing? Our major consulting companies such as KPMG, Pricewaterhouse, Ernst & Young, McKinsey, World Economic Forum, the Institute of Management Development, all talk in conversing about what it means now to move from that sustainability picture to a regenerative one. Organizations likewise. I've listed, just picked a number of organizations located in the US, in Australia, and also in Malaysia. And the sorts of responses, Interface, for example, look at their carbon drawdown. They're looking at sequestering carbon from the atmosphere as part of a regenerative program, future considerations, developing leaders. Triodos Bank, thinking about in the UK what it means to offer regenerative banking. Then we've got regenerative agricultural programs such as Nestle in Malaysia. Also in Malaysia, CIMB taking a look at their decarbonisation plan, which is quite ambitious, right across the spectrum of their different businesses. And World Wildlife Fund also talking about their regenerative programs. We have regenerative tourism as well in Australia with Untamed Escapes, Southern Blue in regenerative farming, and another useful source of information I picked up in regard to the Malaysian situation is sustainable brands. And I've highlighted and linked each of these for those interested to take a look at as examples of what is going on in terms of regenerativity broadly. So I just want to touch briefly on a number of challenges. I think one of the key challenges, as with any requirement for change, is human inertia. So the question is, do people care enough? Well, on the assumption, of course, hopefully that people do care, I think one of the key issues that we need to address is what it means to have the appropriate conversations. So in general terms, I think many people are unaware of what it actually means to talk about the things that are important to them. And I'm using the word talk in terms of a much broader meaning of what it means to, within organizations, to hold conversations about regenerativity. So that's a whole range of issues there that need to be looked at. You know, part of that is probably the narrative as well that we use, which confuses in terms of having conversations, and then knowing how to respond. And then likewise with any kind of behavior, that the individual, that the team, the organization feels supported in those behaviors. And this is where the psychology around self-determination actually helps us. At an organizational level for businesses, challenges could be around what it means to structure their organization. What's an appropriate culture? What are appropriate information exchange processes and other processes? How about leadership? Are the necessary resources, financial and personnel, present? And then on a broader sort of situational level, again, one of the big ones is in talking about planetary health is if we think about business as being a mediator between the natural environment on the one hand and human well-being on the other, business doesn't operate in a vacuum. And so some of the challenges could be, for example, do we actually operate within a regenerative economy? Regenerative economy would be important from a business perspective so that they likewise feel supported in their activities. Not that there's a necessity still to emphasize continuously this idea of continual growth and profit in financial terms. So I think that's a big one in terms of the situation. So I thought, as far as opportunities are concerned, key issues here around what it means to recalibrate all of those open human systems so that they're supportive of a regenerative perspective and that they contribute towards a flourishing planet and population. What does it mean to be regenerative for organizations and for individuals, for societies, for cities? We see many cities around the world striving towards becoming regenerative: Berlin, Melbourne, Copenhagen, Amsterdam, and so on and so forth. And also in Malaysia, I understand, which is tremendous. And then, of course, many business opportunities. It's been well demonstrated that organizations that pursue appropriate strategies, whether sustainability or regenerativity, certainly sitting in a great position. And as we move forward in terms of time, and as we come closer to some of those challenges that are likely to be highlighted, I would imagine strategically those organizations that will be successful, those organizations that are well on the road to regenerativity. So 3 things organizations can do now. First and foremost, shift the conversation narrative from sustainability to regenerativity, from minimizing negative impacts of activities to maximizing positive impacts. Critically question initiatives driven by the words such as to reduce, to minimize, or even net zero. That's still not regenerative per se. We can ask what can we do in all the key areas of our business to build regenerative platforms that lead to regenerative outcomes. And when we look at individuals from a regenerative point of view, it means that we need to start thinking about what can we do to build and support the self-determining regenerative capacity of our people within organizations. So those are 3 key areas I think that organizations can start to look at in terms of embarking on or continuing on their journey towards becoming a truly regenerative business. So that's it from me in terms of the presentation. Look forward to working together with people in the breakout room a little later in the meeting. Thank you for your attention, and wish everybody an enjoyable Planetary Health Alliance meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. He's watching with us actually on the Zoom. So thanks, David, for that and for giving us an overview of regenerative businesses. I think, when we look back at the jigsaw puzzle and some of the examples we were giving and people who are entrepreneurs, it's also a question of when you look into your business, we wanted you to also reflect, because as you were going around, I saw a lot of you smiling and laughing and having fun, looking for somebody who practices yoga, for example, or looking for someone. But, it's these kind of activities that have got no direct contribution to GDP because it's not part of the measurement or the calculation, but it gives so much joy to many of us, right? And that's why these conversations become important. Now, we've heard from Simon, who's given us that broad framework about well-being. Is anyone from We All, by the way? No, because I've had the privilege of working with Michael, and he was fantastic. But thank you so much for that. And then we've heard from Dave, who's talked about a regenerative business, which I think the moving from just a sustainability mindset to regenerative becomes very important. Now, next, we've got our friends from the WWF who'll be sharing with us what they've been doing on the ground. And also, again, if anybody wants to move forward and sit right in front or pull your chairs up, feel free to do so, so that you're not stuck too far behind. So I should have just reminded that there's seats on the sides. You can even come in front while they vacated. So perhaps first on, I'd like to invite Zara Phang, who is the WWF-Malaysia Sustainable Economy Lead and has been with WWF-Malaysia for 9 years, providing content, research, analysis, and insights on relevant issues to effectively communicate and support advocacy work on sustainable economy. She's co-chair of the board for the Climate Action Network Southeast Asia and is lead author on the IPBES Regional Assessment Report on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services from Asia and the Pacific. If you join me in a round of applause for Zara.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So with this presentation, I actually wanted to go back to this concept of beyond GDP and what it actually really means. So it's called progress from a Malaysian perspective. And the first thing I have for you is and I don't know if you realize in Malaysia, like how good our roads are and how amazing they are. And obviously we see a lot of sports cars as well in Malaysia, right? Belong to some very rich people, which maybe even one or many to Jeffrey Chia. I didn't see any sports cars in this country that I went to. Even though there are some very rich people in this country, but they didn't own any sports cars. And I assume the reason they didn't own any sports cars is because there was no point driving along those roads, right? And the point here I'm trying to make is that when you have a country in which there is such a high level of inequality, being rich doesn't really get you much of anything. Yeah, you might enjoy like going overseas and enjoying what's happening overseas, but you don't really enjoy your life in that country. So I believe, and maybe this is something that the very rich people in this country do see, that there needs to be a certain level of development within your country, and the wealth does need to be shared out. And it's not just about increasing that level of GDP, right? It's also you want to live in a country where there's a very low crime rate. You want to live in a country where there's a high level of equality, because then you can also enjoy the other things that are in this country as well, right? So you want to be able to walk along the roads without being harassed. You want to be able to speak to people and interact with people and engage with people who are, in a good space of mind, who are well educated. And you can also enjoy the services that are being able to being offered by these people.
So would you say from wealth to GDP to better frequency technology? So would you say that it has to do with appealing to the humanistic side of the billionaires?
Yes, but also to their own selfish side as well, right? Like
Right.
it's good for them to be able to enjoy all these things
Right.
too. have a, this level of.
So allow me to jump in very quickly. In my previous life, I was a press secretary to the Malaysian finance minister. So one of the conversations that we had a lot of, no one here is from MOF, right? Get into trouble for this. From EPU, okay, but you retired about 10 years ago, so I'm safe, right? So, I mean, one of the things that happened back then was the discussion about how do we redistribute wealth and try to generate revenue for the country, not through traditional means of taxation. And one of the things we often spoke about was endowment, charities, wakaf, right? Or as you call it, the social economy, which is something what we're trying to talk about. And it's very hard for the government to do this because they do not want to let go of tax revenue. And that's often what governments around the country tend to look at. I know Dr. Zul here is with the state, one of the state authorities, right? And Sunway is there too. But anyway, on a side note, so Tan Sri Jeffrey Shah has actually expressed to us in Sunway saying, if the government can be more progressive with how it views endowment laws, right? And then you incentivize people who have high net worth to give their money. Because I've asked him once, I've said, oh, you seem to be very passionate about reform of taxation laws. I said, why is that? And people are saying it's hard to give money to Sunway because you're a billionaire. People say, you've already got a billionaire. What more do you want? Then he says, so his reply is very simple. He says, I'm still only one man in a pool of many others. And now imagine if he says, well, all of us high net worth individuals can do something collectively. We think the world will be a better place. And I think many of you have seen many millionaires and billionaires who only want to get richer over time, as opposed to what you see today in Sunway reinvesting their wealth. Yeah, so I hope that kind of answers that. Before we get to Lavanya, can I just add that gentleman's question and Jerry as well? We'll take 2 questions and then Lavanya can take those as well. And if there's one for Dave, we'll go to Dave too. Thank you.
Hi, hi everybody. My name is Christian Rødland. I'm from Norway. It was actually in line with the previous question, what I was having in mind, because is this very loud? It's fine, okay. Yeah. But I think the increasing difference between the poor and the rich, both between countries, rich countries and poor countries, but also within countries, between different parts of the population, is one of the biggest obstacles actually to achieve transformative change, which is needed, which we all agree upon. And I have to say, isn't that we talk about economic growth? I'm a medical doctor, I'm not an economist. So we talk about growth in Norway, even increased growth. I think that is really interesting to reflect upon. But isn't the economic model in itself, and please enlighten me on this, the cause of the increasing differences between the poor and the rich? And is it possible to envision some sort of framework or economic model that doesn't do that? Isn't that sort of the whole nature of the current economy, at least?
We'll take both at the same time because we are running out of time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Jerry from Indonesia. I'm not a big fan of GDP myself, but I understand the allure of it because it's cold and it doesn't discriminate almost. It's pure numbers. I love the fact that you bring in things like values on how can we incorporate that and measure that. My question is, whose values? And in a nation that's quite multicultural, like Malaysia or Indonesia, like which values are we holding on to? And most times it would be the majority, I would imagine. Now, when we kind of like focus on the values and measuring the values of the majority, what would happen to those who do not kind of like fall into those values? Marginalized community like LGBT, different religion, different ethnicity. At least with GDP, the pink dollars have worth. They still like that we're spending. But what happened in the value-based system?
Wow, very good questions. Lavanya?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I mean, these are all very important, very complex questions. I won't claim to be able to answer them. It's something that we all have to put our heads together, not just in this room, but everywhere else, and have a, take a serious look at ourselves, right? Now you talk about, you know, maybe how do you speak to the rich? Maybe it's a communication issue. Surely everybody cares about their next generation, their own children. Okay, and we are not, I think, communicating that sufficiently, that what we are doing is destroying their future. And now, perhaps we need to start, you know, looking at how we are communicating, what's actually going on, in a way that should speak to each and every one of us, in a way that should make us care. In terms of, okay, how can we redesign what the economy should be doing, right? I think that was your question, sir, from Norway. We heard earlier about the well-being economy. You know, some countries are already moving in that direction and already testing these things out. You know, indigenous communities have a very different worldview. I mean, it's what Zara was talking about. Their relationship with nature is that nature is part of us. And we, in the mainstream, sort of look at nature as apart from us, right? And we look at it as only a resource to be exploited. While from the indigenous worldview, it's really like it's part of your hand or your body, right? It's really a part of you. So if anything happens to the environment, it also affects you. So maybe we need to start looking at things, have change in perspective for one. And if we look at some of our, I think most of our religious teachings, and I think the faith workshop would have shown that they all say the same thing, you know, they converge a lot of the times that, you know, we need to be mindful. We are not here as, you know, the overlords, right? We are stewards in the Islamic faith, you know, and so these are the concepts that, you know, that underpin the values and that should be underpinning our values. So when we talk about, you know, how do we look at things? Maybe instead of just, you know, money pushing everything and, you know, and money making that decision for us and us allowing that to be the case, we should become the masters of that, right? And how do we do that? To me, it maybe is about maybe three things that we should look at. One is, you know, moving away from this profit-driven attitude to a purpose-driven attitude, right? Making purpose the goal, and then the profits will come. I think that's what Tan Sri Jeffrey Chow was saying the other day during the gala dinner, right? Move away from being competitive all the time to collaborative. So we all sit together in this room. We all talk to each other. We all understand each other's perspective. Move away from, what's the third one? Okay, I've lost it.
If it comes back, you let us know.
Yeah.
I think Dave also has a response to the question earlier. Dave?
Yes, hopefully you can hear me. So good afternoon, Malaysia.
Can we hear Dave?
Yep, can you hear me okay?
Softer. Yeah. Could you put up the... Dave, could you link your speaker to the... Oh, wait, no, it's ours. Yep. Could you try again, Dave?
Yeah, can you hear me
While we wait, I got the third one. It's move away from short-termism to long-termism, so that we have a view of the future as well in our decision making.
Can you hear me, Daniel?
Yeah, I can hear you here. Why don't you put this?
Okay, let's try that. Does that work? I think I just saw a thumbs up from Zara. You okay? Okay, good. Good afternoon, Malaysia. I'm sorry I'm not with you. So I just wanted a quick response to the Norwegian gentleman's question. I didn't catch his name, but of course, in my presentation, I talked about, you know, the necessity to move towards a regenerative business. And in reality, a regenerative business is only one part of a much bigger system. And for regenerative business to work, we need a regenerative economy in which regenerative businesses sit. So then the question becomes, what is a regenerative economy? And that That's the million-dollar question. There is work being conducted by the Capital Institute. That's John Fullerton's group, if anybody's familiar with them. And definitely they're worth taking a look at. Unfortunately, in the few seconds, I haven't really got an opportunity to talk too much about that. However, I am aware also that there's a presentation tomorrow, including Kate Rayworth from Donut Economics, and these ideas talked about by my colleagues there this afternoon in terms of shifting from GDP to a well-being economy. The donut economic model and the work of the Capital Institute go a long way towards thinking about what a regenerative economy would actually look like. And that's the direction we need to take. And part of that is including shifting again the conversation, the narrative away from what it means to be wealthy in financial terms to what it means to be wealthy in other terms. And that's, I think, the point that Lavanya was making just there at the end. So I'll leave it at that. I know we're running out of time. Wonderful to be with you virtually, and please enjoy the rest of the conference. If anybody wants to connect with me, I think Daniel will be highlighting or spreading my email. So thank you, Daniel, Zara, and Lavanya.
Since we heard all these wonderful presentations, but now it's your chance to help us build and identify how we can shift the narrative from the present, which is profit or GDP, to beyond GDP. There are, in essence, 3 charts at the back, which are quite bare and lonely. So we would love to have some TLC from you in terms of the first tree, problem tree, where using Post-its, identify the problem. What are the policy gaps that is standing between our way towards transit beyond GDP, right? So in the roots is where you identify the policy gaps or the policy issues, or what's lacking in that sense, or what's driving or fueling a present GDP type world. That's the first tree, the problem tree. And in the canopy, you can then, as Lavanya has also quite shared earlier, right? You can illustrate in Post-its as well. What do you think are some of the manifestations of these gaps in society, be it in terms of communications, in terms, and in terms of policy as well? Similarly, the third chart is the dream tree, where in the roots of the tree, what are the enablers in terms of business, communications, or policies that would be required and in the canopy would be what would policy success look like, or communications success look like, or business success in a world beyond GDP look like. So between these 2 trees, the problem to the dream, who can help carry us there? Who are these vectors of change? So stakeholders and influencers. Who are these stakeholder groups? For example, we heard a little bit about faith-based or culture-based groups. There could be other influencers that can help propel this agenda. So please do grab some Post-its along the way. I had color coordinated it, but I will not complicate it. So just grab a Post-it and please grow those trees on your way out, right, Daniel? Thank you.
So one more time, the first tree on the left is the problem, and it's a question of?
Okay. So the first tree is the problem. At the roots are, what are the policy gaps? What are the communication gaps? What are the business gaps that is driving profits, that is driving GDP, and that is preventing a beyond GDP or a planet approach? That's the roots. The canopy of the first tree is the manifestation of these gaps, and problems and how it manifests in society, be it as a policy, communications, or business concern. Then conversely is, what are the enablers, the roots that, so it's all the fertilizers, the natural fertilizers, the water that enables growth in the way we want to see it, and what is the growth that we think is what is the success, what does success look like in terms of policy, communications, and business? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So take a moment, maybe while you're sitting down, to write it into the sticky notes that we've passed around. And then once you're done, you can, on your way out, just stick it onto the tree. We'd appreciate if you can do at least one of each, one of the potential gaps, one of the potential solutions, and one of the potential stakeholders that can help us address this, because this feedback will be also important for us as we take it at the end of the session. Now, I know we had to rush a little bit because of time, but thank you so much for being with us. Please give yourselves a round of applause. You have been fantastic otherwise. If only we had more time, as always. So yes, please take a few minutes and join me in a round of applause for our facilitators, our presenters as well, because they've done such a wonderful job in sharing today. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the next session after this. But yes, please populate the tree. The tree is at the back, so on your way out, you'll have to stick it up. Those who don't, we don't let you out. So the carrot or the stick. Thank you. And Dave, and those of you online, thank you so much.